College football is back, and so we're back here on the Big Mountain. JY here to do a preview of the UTEP Miners at Utah State Aggies game, and I have a special guest with me, Adrian Broaddus here. He is host of the Miner Talk, also on 600 ESPN El Paso. Adrian, so good to have you on the mountain.
Man, we are going to the Mountain West here for Miner Talk. We are going next year, guys. I'm so happy that you asked us to be a part of it. Screw Conference USA. We're done with that conference. We're so excited that we're heading over to Mountain West. And as far as UTEP fans go, they're excited about this jump as well. As radio host, as somebody who's been covering this program for 10 years now, I'm so excited to leave Conference USA in the dust and then head over to the Mountain West. So what better way to start? The fact that UTEP is back, that football is back, than to jump on a Mountain West podcast like yours.
I love it. I'm excited. I'm already been excited for this. Your excitement makes me even more excited. I'm ready to jump off my chair. I'm so happy to have the Miners here in the Mountain West. And we're going to talk about your week one game versus the Aggies, do a little bit of back and forth previewing this game. And I want to apologize. It's Broaddus, I believe. Broaddus, help me out.
Yeah, Broaddus. You got it. No worries.
Thank you.
No worries.
I struggle with names, as our mountain dwellers know, but let's get into this. So UTEP traveling up there to Utah State. This game has, as we know, a little more meaning here. We've got one outgoing member of the Mountain West, one incoming member of the Mountain West. And right now, USU's doing really good in home openers. They're 15-1 in their last 16 home openers. We're going to talk about maybe if they take an L here and break this streak a little bit. I want to start with you, Adrian, in terms of talking about the Miner offense. We learned last week that Malachi Nelson has been named the starting quarterback. Of course, Mountain West fans know this name because he was at Boise State last year playing backup to Maddox Madsen there. So I want to hear from you about this offense, about this quarterback, what your expectations are. So take it away.
Yeah, this was something that, you know what, to be honest with you, Jason, I expected this. I thought that they would go this route of going with their quarterback, Malachi Nelson, name him the starting quarterback after the last 3 weeks. Not necessarily of what I saw, but what I heard from everybody around this UTEP football program. And when I say not necessarily saw, I mean, it was clouded, right? There was five quarterbacks in this quote-unquote quarterback battle. You had a guy in Chad Warner who is a true freshman. Yeah, you probably wrote him off immediately in the mix as far as necessarily being a starter. But then you factor in some of the other guys, Skylar Locklear, who played in 9 games last year for the Miners and who is definitely a viable candidate to be a starting quarterback with this bunch. You talk about Cade McConnell, who's won at the highest levels for UTEP in the past. This is his 3rd year here with the Miners as a quarterback, and his first season he played in relief. Last year did the same, dealt with an injury, but was returning as a graduate player this year in the mix. And then Shea Smith, who can kind of do it all for this squad, is a top athlete for this offense. So when you looked at the battle in April, and then you talk about the battle going into August, Malachi Nelson was able to separate himself based on all the talents that really got him here to El Paso, got him here to UTEP, and made him kind of one of those marquee type of players that you kind of keep on your radar. So I wasn't surprised to see him named the starter. You kind of figure, well, a guy who was a former #1 prospect in all of America coming out of high school, well, of course he could end up being, the starting quarterback at a school like UTEP, which is starving for some success down the line. So I wasn't necessarily really surprised by the move, by him necessarily being named starter. What to expect? I have no clue. I don't think America knows what to expect. This will be his first true start in college football come Saturday. So that makes me excited. It's kind of like a wild card here. If he's great, well, man, you can get excited about UTEP football for 2025. If he struggles, well, that's also okay too. It's his first ever start. And, next week, not to look ahead, but their home opener is against an FCS team in UT Martin. So maybe he's able to get right in a game like that. So a lot is on the table here, but a lot of unknowns, Jason, when it comes to Malachi Nelson and what to expect here for this first game.
Definitely has the talent. I'm anxious to see him play for sure. I actually, not to go back into history, but I really thought Maddox Madsen was going to be the starter last year in Boise. A lot of people just assumed it was going to be Malachi, and I wasn't surprised when it was named that he wouldn't be the starter there. But as he has jumped around, looking for the chance. I remember covering him as he made that transition, really just looking for a chance to be able to play. He's getting that here with the Miners, and I'm very excited. You also bring back a good starting offensive line. You bring back some of your receivers. So he has talent around him here. I like what the UTEP Miners are building there with Coach Scotty Walden. Can you talk more just about the offensive, offense in general and where you think they're headed here in 2025?
Yeah, I would like them to be a little bit more run based than they were last year. I mean, last year you kind of struggled running the ball under running backs like Javon Jackson and some of the other players who got a chance to appear in games last year for the Miners. But I want to see them run the ball a little bit more this year and kind of lean on that game. I think you could even see guys, some surprises come out of the backfield as well. They have this minor back position that they love to champion. And a minor back, what is that? It's somebody who plays a little bit of wide receiver, can also play a little bit of running back for them, and kind of could be a gadget player all around the field. So that's what Scotty Walden likes to do. He likes to be innovative with his offenses. Mm-hmm. I know last year maybe a little bit more vanilla than fans would have wanted. They saw a lot of bubble screens last year, a lot of kind of simple plays and stuff like that. But when you have a quarterback like Malachi Nelson who can develop on things like misdirection, can extend plays, not necessarily on the ground, so to speak, but maybe extend plays using his cannon of an arm, then you just kind of wonder what we could see with this UTEP offense here in 2025. One more year of another system with Scotty Walden calling the plays. I mean, there was a lot of boomer bust home run kind of plays last year where they really banked on going for the deep ball or going for the big shot and trying to get that guy open in situations. But I'm looking at Kenny Odom. I'm looking at Cam Thomas to carry the way for them offensively. I'm a little concerned on their offensive front. They're really relying on guys that have played at the NAIA level or FCS level or maybe a little level lower than, the FBS level to step up in key kind of like positions on their offensive front. A lot of inexperience on that offensive line, but they'll bank on their leaders like Ivan Escobar, who's their center. I just feel like our offensive line will worry me, knowing the depth is always going to be an issue on that offensive front, and knowing that you're going to have to protect a first-year quarterback like Malachi Nelson. So offensively, that might be where they need like the most room for improvement. Like this weekend, if they just come out guns blazing offensively and make some huge plays, I'd be a little surprised. I think it's going to take, a month or two for this offense to truly find their identity.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you look at the quarterback room, and as you mentioned, they're very deep. Locklear has plenty starts in this offense. So I'm not saying Malachi has a short leash per se, but you definitely have the support there if needed in the quarterback room. You mentioned, the receiving core that you have there. Bringing back 3 of the top 4 from last year is fantastic. And mobile quarterbacks can help maybe a little bit of a weaker offensive line. So I'm looking for some big things here, I think, from UTEP. Let me talk briefly about the USU defense here and how they may counter some of this offense from the Miners. They only have here for the whole team 4 returning starters. That's tied for fewest in all of FBS with Oklahoma State. They have 39 players here across the team, not just defense, but across the team here do the Aggies. 39 players returning in total. That's second fewest in all of FBS behind New Mexico. But they do have 29 transfers coming in that have 4 years potential. They've been here for 4 years, have been playing for 4 years. 14 of those are on defense. They do return some strong defensive linemen here, kind of the big guy there, Iniguez Jr. there. They also have Some big linebackers returning here with Miller, McGow. So got that front that should be pretty good, and we'll see how that O line with UTEP kind of stands up to the front seven there, being probably the strength of this defense. Because when you look at the secondary, they really are going to have some weakness, especially since now Ike Larson has been suspended for the first 6 games here, or he's been suspended for 6 weeks, I should say. I'm not sure if it's 6 games, but 6 weeks. And so he, won't be playing. And I really think one of the keys here could be this receiving and passing game of the Miners versus this secondary of the Aggies. I think, to me, that's probably the biggest key of who comes out the winner here. I got to give the edge to UTEP. You mentioned the receiving core that's coming back, maybe a little bit more balanced offense. And so, yeah, I think this side of the ball for me, the one we just talked about, is the one that's going to be the key to probably who wins this game. We'll get to the reverse of this quick, but is there anything there with the Aggies defense that maybe worries you coming into this game?
I'd still really be concerned, Jason. It's the first ever time that you're going to get a chance to see, Malachi Nelson in a full, I guess, game as a starting quarterback in this
Right.
sense. So that's my biggest worry. Like, what kind of Malachi Nelson does UTEP get? Do they get the Malachi Nelson who's just ready to come in and take USU's lunch and just kind of run with it, or are they going to be a little conservative, try to establish that balanced attack like I kind of talked about, and then see what they could do beyond that? Like that's I'm concerned. I don't know if I'm there yet to just say that the receiving core that's coming back, that the production that's coming back from last year is just ready to kind of come into this first game and light it up. Like, I don't know if I'm there just yet. I think it's going to take some time. I think offensively is where this team is going to need to have those strides in weeks and maybe even months to come. I mean, you looked at last year's team, took more than a month for their offense to find their identity, took more than a month for this team to find their first win. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case this time around for them to find that first victory. But I think right out of the gate, you're going to see those early struggles.
Well, let's go to the other side. I want to briefly here talk about the Aggies offense. They have Bryson Barnes at quarterback, a kid that I really like. I really thought he could have been the starter last year. He did get some starts. He got some playing time. He comes in with 140 QB rating, which is very solid, 61% passing rating, completion rating last year. He ran 68 times for 577 yards and 5 touchdowns. And I think pretty much most of the offense for the Aggies will run through either arms or legs through Bryson Barnes. They have a very solid O-line coming back. They do lose a lot at kind of every other level. The running backs, they lose Faison to South Carolina. Javen Jacobs, who came along with Bronco from UNM, looks to be maybe their number one here. And then, of course, they lose tons of receiver talent. Jalen Royals, one of the best receivers in the Mountain West. He moves on. He graduates. And they just recently lost junior Corey Thomas to an injury. He was projected to be a starter here for the Aggies. They will need, senior Boyd here, a transfer from Texas Tech, tight end Lane, to really step up in this passing game. So I like what Barnes brings. I liked him last year, but man, they're losing a lot of production, a lot of the skill talent. I mentioned, just returning 39 players in total to this team. How quickly can an offense gel? And that's going to be a really big question early on for the Aggies. Let's talk. Have you talk about the UTEP defense here and maybe what their strengths are and how they can maybe counter what I think is a very strong quarterback here for the Mountain West and Bryson Barnes.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because quarterback play is usually, when the opposing team has strong quarterback play, and especially if they're able to put ball in the position to kind of hurt UTEP, that's where I think that, you'd only find that weakness against the Miners defense. Look, over the offseason, UTEP changed both coordinators. They have a new offensive coordinator in Mark Kalla. Let's throw that out the books. It's Scotty Walden who calls the plays. But on defense, they do have a new defensive coordinator, and last year was JJ Clark, who I mean, that UTEP defense was really fun to watch. They outperformed what I thought they could do, especially, midway to the season, to the final game of the year. They were overachievers on defense in a big way. And it started up front. I mean, they led Conference USA in total sacks on the year. They had two of the top sack leaders individually kind of go number 1 and 2. You had Maurice Westmoreland, who was an absolute dog as a grad transfer. And then you had right behind him, Kyron Duhan, who was a true freshman. So on one hand, you get a veteran. On the other hand, you get a young up-and-comer. And both of them led the conference. It was number 1 and number 2 in Conference USA in sacks. And the interesting part is, both players are gone. I mean, now you're having to replace that talent with a D-line that they think is just as good and maybe even more talented than last year. I really like the guys that they have up front. It's guys like Echo Taylor, guys like Derek Burns, guys who are in the interior who do all the nasty work, like Ashton Coker and Katie Johnson, who's their defensive captain on this D-line. So defensive line will be their strength. If you're wondering how this game is won, it's through the trenches on both sides. And UTEP's defensive line is going to come to play, like no matter what. They're going to come to play every single week. And I think that is the strongest point of their team on both sides of the ball. Now, their deepest part of the team is their linebacker core. There are three guys. You can throw 5 names out there, and all 3 guys you throw out there as starters, you'd feel confident with, or 4 guys if they're going to go that 3-4 setup, whatever you end up doing for UTEP, and whatever we end up seeing here from their first-year defensive coordinator and Bobby Daly coming into the mix. But I know how excited he is and how excited he should be about these linebackers. You got Garrett Hawkins, you got Micah Davey trying to make a jump up from a lower level, now here up to the FBS level. You've got proven guys like Stratton Schufelt, who did it last year as a true freshman for the Miners, and Jaden Wilson, who played for Bronco Mendenhall at New Mexico and is now here with the Miners, coming back to his hometown. He played for Austin High School, which is here in El Paso, and he was a 2-way star over with that squad. And now he's back in the 915 playing for the UTEP Miners, which he calls a dream school. So a lot of different names. And then not to mention Jalen Rudolph, who now rejoined Scotty Walden. He had been with him at Austin P, and now he's going to be here for his final season after it not really working out for him at Indiana last year. So you've got a complement of linebackers who are really going to shine for this UTEP squad. It's just a matter of who goes out there and how you kind of implement these different dudes out there on the field. And then their secondary, I mean, you have players as well. You have Xavier Smith, who's, had experience playing for Colorado, also played for Scotty Walden with Austin P. You've got guys in that defensive backfield who want to get on the field as well. Justin Content as a cornerback, Neil Campbell as another cornerback. Those are going to be the 2 guys who they look to. And then they run that spur position, which is kind of that hybrid safety model. And you could look at guys like Lance Russell at that position, or any of the guys like Solo Barnes, who could end up occupying that role as well. So secondary wise, I like the Miners in this game, in this challenge right here in a non-conference matchup like this. And it's just going to be up to that D-line. I think the D-line can set the tone for the Miners in this game defensively for them to stand a chance to try to pull one off on the road.
I think that's what they'll have to do. I think, kind of minimizing Bryson Barnes's talent, both in the air and on the ground. If they can get to him, collapse the pocket, make him uncomfortable, they'll have a lot of success on defense, I do believe. So I'm anxious, to me, looking at this side, it's how can that defense disrupt Bryson Barnes? And then on the other side, it's kind of what can Malachi and those receivers do against an inexperienced secondary there for the Aggies. 2 last pieces I want to talk about. I want to talk about coaches. We have to talk about coaches here. And then I want to get to a prediction and kind of how you think the game's going to end up. I'm going to let you start. Scotty Walden, just a super energetic guy. Like, I love watching him coach. I love his press conferences. Fill me in on what kind of coach he is and just, what he has brought to UTEP there over the past few years.
Yeah, he is an energetic coach. He's a player's coach. I mean, the players absolutely love him. He finds ways to connect with everybody, recruits, current players on his team, and past players who played for him. Like, he is the absolute players coach. He does everything for his players. He really advocates for players in a big way. And he is the kind of coach unlike maybe your necessarily traditional type of coach who wants to embrace new normals in college football, wants to embrace the new things and the new changes that we're seeing. I mean, look at how young he is, second youngest coach only to Kenny Dillingham in all of FBS football. So he's excited and motivated by this job, by this big jump that he had from going to Austin Peay and leading that squad and that team over to conference championships. And he's motivated by that to make this jump to the FBS level. And when, he initially got this job, the excitement, the energy is what he still has today here going into year 2. It's not just something that you see in the press conferences on my Twitter feed or anything like that. It's genuine. Like, you meet him behind closed doors and he wants to make that genuine connection with you. So that's the kind of coach he is. He's determined to be a play caller. Jason, that's the one thing you can look at him. The previous coach, RIP to Dana Dimmel, he also, he called all his own plays offensively. Scotty Walden's very similar. He's going to call everything offensively the way he has it. He has a lot of different philosophies that he wants to implement. He has different sayings on the team. One of my favorite ones is OKGs are kind of guys. Yes. So they want to recruit OKGs, on their team. That's kind of one of their mantras that they use. And they use all these different sayings. So for all the Mountain West listeners out there, and for you especially, I got to get you guys a dictionary or something like that, so you can follow along with all the different sayings, along with all the different acronyms or whatever you might hear from a head coach like Scotty Walden.
Love it. I'm going to need it as we start following him. I have heard him use the OKG before. I've heard him say that. I love that. Our kind of guys, the OKGs, love that from him. Bronco Mendenhall here with USU followed him very closely last year as he, really helped New Mexico almost get to a bowl berth. I mean, everything that they did there was awesome. I mean, it came out of almost nowhere. Of course, Devin Dampier there, the quarterback, was a big star. He's now moved on out of New Mexico. But Bronco, we got to meet him there at the Mountain West Media Days. I kind of knew, obviously, who he was before he became a coach in the Mountain West. But I have to say, I've been nothing but impressed with that individual. Steve had a great conversation with him about his move, after 1 year from UNM up to USU and why that decision was made. And just a fantastic individual. And really, I mean, over his history, you look at, he was at Virginia, not an easy place to win, and he won. He was at UNM in year number 1. He brought them almost to a bowl game. And so, I think that Bronco factor here for USU is my biggest unknown, both for this game and for their entire season. Like, what does that Bronco factor do for the Aggies this year? And we're going to find out. We have no idea what that is, but it's an absolute real thing. He does more with less. He's used to doing that, and I think he's very sincere with his players. You mentioned a player coach, and I saw what he did with the Lobos last year and what it meant to him to see the success of a program that's just been through so much turnover and lack of success, what that meant to him and his players. So let's end this sucker with some predictions. Of course, we're talking about a game here, UTEP versus USU. Adrian, where are you at? How do you think this game's going to go?
Yeah, I think it's going to go USU's way. I like the points. Take the points if you're an Aggies fan. I just, non-conference road opener, right? Yeah. This one I watched a lot of week 0 football. I don't know if you did as well, Jason. Oh, yeah. But I watched a lot of week 0 football, and I feel like this game is going to go kind of like what we saw from Western Kentucky and Sam. I might be texting you at one point thinking, wait a second, could the Miners do it? Could you see this actually happening? And then there's one touchdown coming the Aggies' way. Then there's the next error that happens on UTEP's side. And then the Aggies capitalize on another touchdown and score again. So and fans who think this is going to be an incredible season, which it still could be. I mean, the funny thing about El Paso and the funny thing about UTEP fans, reactionary. They love to just react to everything that they see, and right now they're drinking the Kool-Aid by the pitcher for the 2025 UTEP football season. They want the Malachi Nelson effect. They want to see what year 2 brings for Scotty Walden. They want all the excitement. They want winning. I've seen so many different predictions on UTEP, and half of them talk about UTEP going to a bowl game, winning 7, 8, 9 games.
Wow.
I've been here in the 915 for 28 years. I've only seen this team go to a bowl game 4 times in that span. So like going to a bowl game and having success and having a winning season does not happen at UTEP. This is the same school that has not won a bowl game since 1967. Like, that is unheard of. It's the longest FBS drought for not winning a bowl game for teams that have been active for this long. So just the fact that they're starving for success, they want to support a winner. The UTEP fans do. You relate it back to this game right here, and don't put all your eggs in this basket. I'm really just talking to the UTEP fans out there, and I'm really talking right now to those Mountain West fans who might even be excited about UTEP and think, could they have a great season? Yes, they could. They could still have a productive season, and it's just how do you measure success? How do you, talk about success for the UTEP side of things? I think UTEP is so excited to move to the Mountain West next year that this year they want to kind of leave CUSA in the dust by having that final successful season. Does it start this week? Maybe it does, but I just don't see it happening that way. I like the Aggies in this matchup right here at home. First game under Bronco Mendenhall in front of their home fans. They got to win this one, right? I mean, you look at the Miners, they come back next week against an FCS team and UT Martin. Get that victory then. Go win against a team that you're supposed to beat next week.
Yeah, I hear everything you're saying. I've been cautious not to partake in maybe a sip of that Kool-Aid as well, because I've been gearing up really for 2026 and what this team could be. Again, if they take another step forward this year, we're not looking for leaps and bounds necessarily, right? But continue that progression, continue with the same coach, continue to build this program. I'm actually viewing 2026 as, their first year in the Mountain West. And it is a jump up in conference and competition. It will be, but I really like what they're building for 2026. And, I also want to leap to, a 6 or 7 win season here with UTEP. They have them at 5.5 on their over/under wins. I think that's fair enough. 5, 6 wins, I think is pretty realistic for UTEP. As for the Aggies, I would do the reverse there and just say this is a big game for them to come out at a home opener to get the win right away. They have to travel to Texas A&M there in week 2, and then they're home versus Air Force in week 3. Very difficult games. Of course, Texas A&M, an extremely difficult game, but they get Air Force there in week 3. So they want to come out hot and heavy. Absolutely, they want to get a W there for their home fans. And as I said, they're 15-1 in their last 16 home openers. That is one heck of a stat. Not that means everything, but that's one heck of a stat for the Aggies and what they can do there at home. So, hey, Adrian, thank you so much for joining me, man. We will definitely keep you in our Rolodex as we're getting ready for UTEP into the Mountain West. We wish you well, and thanks for coming on the Big Mountain.
Hey, I can't wait for it. You got to do the same and join us on 600 ESPN El Paso, especially as we get ready to move over to the Mountain West officially as a radio station. We're the flagship station for UTEP football, so we'll be along for the ride. And then for all the UTEP fans out there and for all the Miner Nation out there, they're going to be super excited about the jump and to say sayonara to Conference USA.
Very good. Well, hey, I will be picking this game Wednesday night during our live pick show. If you want to know who I pick, tune in. You heard what Adrian had to say. I'm going to hold mine back for the live pick show. You can hear what I have to say. But hey, with that, make sure you give this one a like, subscribe if you like our content, and we'll see y'all next time on the Big Mountain.